What celebrities had the worst year?
I'd say Sydney Sweeney.
I think it has to be Sydney Sweeney.
Sydney Sweeney with the cheating advert.
So I'm gonna go with Sydney Sweeney. Everything that's gone on. She's not really on everyone's good list right now, we'll say that.
Sydney Sweeney is facing what many online are calling the roughest year of her entire career so far, and the internet has not been gentle about it. In a surprisingly short amount of time, everything that once felt unstoppable started to look unstable. The momentum she spent years building now appears to be slowing, with controversy stacking up back to back and her public image taking hit after hit. Industry whispers are getting louder too, with claims that even former co-stars are keeping their distance. Rumors continue to circulate that Zendaya has avoided joint press moments and interview seating with Sydney altogether. Things became even messier when gossip blogs pushed unverified claims involving Zendaya's fiancé, Tom Holland, adding more tension to an already uncomfortable situation. Whether those claims hold any truth or not, the noise around it all has been impossible to ignore. Box office numbers have only made things worse. Sydney has recently been labeled online as one of the actors tied to multiple major flops with historically low returns, something critics were quick to highlight. Add in a string of brand missteps, and the narrative around her career shifted fast and not in a good way. One of the biggest turning points came with the American Eagle controversy. After backlash over a campaign many viewers found uncomfortable, the company reportedly pulled away and quietly replaced Sydney with Martha Stewart, sending a very clear message without saying a single word. That move made one thing painfully clear. Brands were no longer standing firmly behind her, and the fallout didn't stop there. More scandals stacked up fast, from cheating rumors to a poorly received novelty product that sparked outrage for crossing serious ethical lines, followed by what many saw as a refusal to issue clear, direct apologies. The pile-on effect was real, and people online were watching every step closely. Critics started saying Sydney was moving like she was untouchable, but this year shattered that illusion completely. Still, insiders claim next year could be her final real chance at a reset, a moment that either rebuilds her reputation or locks in the damage for good. There's already chatter about one upcoming project that fans think could make or break everything, and most people are convinced they know exactly which one it is. Before all of this, Sydney's rise looked intentional and well played. She picked roles that highlighted her intensity, unpredictability, and strong screen presence, which quickly became a talking point on its own. Those early choices brought praise, attention, and serious buzz, which is why this sudden shift feels so shocking to a lot of people watching from the outside. Now the question feels unavoidable. Can Sydney Sweeney flip the script, or is this the start of a slow fade from Hollywood's spotlight? She didn't rely only on surface-level appeal, she also chose roles with real emotional weight, roles that looked like they could support a long-term career. When she first broke out, viewers were genuinely excited watching her rise, especially through her role as Cassie on Euphoria, where she came across as magnetic, emotionally fearless, and raw. Episode after episode, she delivered intense emotional swings that made her impossible to ignore, quickly becoming one of the show's biggest scene stealers at the time. Everything seemed perfectly aligned. The early 2000s leaned hard into empowerment, self-expression, and reclaiming identity, and her image slid right into that cultural moment like it was meant to be there. She seemed perfectly tapped into the moment, choosing roles that spoke directly to the audience of that era. Her projects often leaned into heavy social themes, from storylines centered on women's autonomy to class divides and progressive ideals, especially in The White Lotus. She positioned herself as someone aligned with modern, outspoken causes, and fans noticed that alignment fast. At the time, it felt intentional, like she was signaling that she was aware, socially plugged in, and someone audiences could trust and root for. And honestly, that image worked. For a while, it worked really well, but questions started spreading quickly. Was she adapting to what society wanted just to earn trust, or was that image never fully real in the first place? As the cultural mood shifted, people began wondering if the changes weren't growth at all, but cracks finally showing. Those cracks became visible during a 2021 controversy that caught fans completely off guard. Photos from her mother's 60th birthday party surfaced online, showing red hats and a guest wearing a Blue Lives Matter shirt, and the reaction was instant. The internet spiraled into confusion because it clashed hard with the progressive characters and themes she was known for. Sydney responded quickly, calling the situation a misunderstanding and asking people to stop making assumptions while sending love and birthday wishes to her mom. That response calmed things down. The backlash cooled, and the story faded faster than many expected. Not long after, her career surged again with Anyone But You. The rom-com blew past expectations, revived a genre people thought was done, and pulled massive money on a relatively small budget. Still, whispers followed. Many claimed the hype was driven just as much by off-screen rumors as the movie itself, even though both leads were publicly in long-term relationships. Behind the scenes, photos started raising eyebrows almost immediately. The body language looked a little too close, a little too comfortable, with lingering touches and leaning in that fans definitely clocked. Even when cameras weren't rolling, people noticed everything. And instead of clearing it up, neither of them ever fully confirmed or denied a thing. They let the rumors breathe just enough to keep curiosity alive, light up social media, and push people to feel like they had to see that chemistry play out on the big screen. And it worked because the movie exploded. Sydney stayed completely silent through the whole run, giving herself just enough space to deny any wrongdoing without ever saying it outright. She never admitted to anything, even after Glenn's engagement ended, and that silence became part of the playbook. From there, critics started saying she grew comfortable stirring controversy to stay relevant. The strategy was simple. Spark outrage, grab attention, say nothing, and wait for the internet to move on. That approach worked for a while and made her feel untouchable.
It would have been so easy for her just to say, wow, that really spun out of control. I didn't think about it. That obviously wasn't my intention. Also, American Eagle needs to be accountable to
Yeah,
this.
that's the other thing. It's the company. The real courage, the real confidence is apologizing. Is saying that I did something wrong. That takes a lot.
But eventually it stopped landing. The backlash began stacking up and newer controversies didn't hit the same way anymore. A novelty product launch and a poorly received soap campaign sparked serious outrage, with many viewers saying the messaging crossed ethical lines and felt careless. That's when a lot of people felt the shock value game went too far. The silence that once protected her suddenly turned into a problem, and this time the internet didn't forget. Critics started saying it stopped feeling empowering and began looking like a throwback to how women were openly commodified years ago. Instead of reclaiming control, the image started inviting objectification from every angle, and not in a way that felt modern or intentional anymore. To many, she began looking less like a self-aware star and more like a caricature of the persona she once represented. Then 2024 hit, and everything cracked wide open. Public records revealed her voter registration, and for a lot of fans, that was a full mask-off moment. Suddenly, older rumors about her personal beliefs didn't seem so far-fetched, and the trust she built during her Euphoria era started slipping fast. But the real blow-up hit with the American Eagle Genes campaign. The messaging around traits being passed down immediately set off alarms. Viewers called it tone-deaf at best and deeply coded at worst, accusing the campaign of flirting with ideas that made people seriously uncomfortable. Once again, Sydney leaned into silence and plausible deniability, hoping the noise would burn itself out. This time, that approach completely collapsed. The backlash moved faster than her usual strategy could keep up with, and the story ran wild before she had any real control. Fans who once felt seen and represented suddenly felt brushed off. Her audience shifted almost overnight, and praise started coming from corners she had never publicly aligned with before, which only raised more eyebrows. Soon, commentary pieces began framing her as a symbol in a much bigger culture war. What made it worse was her refusal to clearly address the situation when it mattered most. She didn't apologize even when given an easy opening to calm things down. For many people, that moment sealed it. Disappointment turned into real anger, and it marked a clear turning point she couldn't undo. What people were waiting for wasn't complicated. A simple statement saying she doesn't support hateful ideologies or prejudice would have shut the whole thing down instantly. Instead, her response came off distant and dismissive. She said that when she wants to speak on something she cares about, she will, and that line only made the silence feel louder. Many felt this was the exact moment to pause, wave the white flag, and admit the controversy went too far. A short human clarification could have cooled everything down fast. Instead, it looked like she doubled down and let the chaos keep spinning. What really rubbed people the wrong way was how she reacted to attention from high-profile political figures, and that reaction only added more fuel to an already explosive situation. She described the attention as surreal and smiled through it, and that reaction didn't land the way she may have expected. To some viewers, it came off more like pride than discomfort, and that alone made critics question her self-awareness even harder. Some fans still defend her, saying she may not have fully understood the deeper messaging behind the ad and that the outrage spiraled too far. But others aren't buying that explanation anymore, especially when they compare her response to how her peers handle similar moments. A lot of Gen Z actresses and singers have been quick to shut down political narratives they don't agree with, clearly and publicly. When others draw firm lines, her silence feels less like confusion and more like a deliberate choice, and that's where things start getting uncomfortable. People are now openly asking if she's leaning into this shift because she actually agrees with it, rather than just misstepping once. What's adding to the tension is that her newer fan base in conservative media spaces doesn't seem focused on her acting at all. The praise is about symbolism, not skill, and history shows that kind of attention fades fast once the moment passes. At the same time, her box office numbers are taking real damage. This year alone, she appeared in 4 films that failed to connect with audiences in any major way. The most talked about was Christy, where she played real-life boxer Christy Martin. It was a passion project under her own production company, heavily promoted and released in over 2,000 theaters. Even with that massive rollout, it barely crossed $1 million opening weekend, putting it among the weakest openings for a release that size. Then came Americano, which struggled even more despite a multi-million-dollar budget and wide release. It didn't even hit $500,000 at the box office, and shortly after, Eden followed the same pattern, turning a huge production cost into a shockingly small return. People aren't denying her talent, but more and more are questioning whether nonstop controversy has pushed audiences away from theaters completely. Some viewers admit they just don't want to support someone who turned them off, while others skip the films entirely to avoid side-eye or judgment from friends. Either way, the numbers are speaking loud and the fallout is starting to feel real. Gen Z audiences are extremely online and hyper-aware, so a lot of people believe her scandals played a direct role in the box office drop. When Christy underperformed, Sydney responded by saying the film wasn't made for numbers but for impact. She called it the most meaningful project of her life and said that if it helped even one woman take a step towards safety, then it succeeded. She insisted she was proud no matter the numbers. That explanation didn't sit well with everyone, and the reaction was split fast. Actress Ruby Rose pushed back publicly and did not hold back at all. She revealed she was originally attached to an earlier version of the Christie script and described that version as incredible and life-changing. Ruby then dropped a statement that spread like wildfire. None of the people want to see someone who hates them parading around and pretending to be us. You are a grifter. You ruined the film, period. Christie deserved better. That moment turned into a full-blown PR nightmare almost overnight. At the same time, more context started surfacing. The American Eagle backlash reportedly exploded while Sydney was filming Euphoria Season 3. She and Zendaya were on set together during that period, but insiders now claim the dynamic shifted fast. Sources allege Zendaya has been distancing herself, avoiding joint press appearances and even shared interview seating. One report claims Zendaya refused to take the stage with her Euphoria co-star during promotional events for the upcoming 3rd season. Whether any of that is officially confirmed or not, the optics look rough. Between industry backlash, non-stop criticism, and alleged distance from co-stars, the pressure around her career feels heavier than ever. The fallout keeps stacking up fast, and honestly, it's not hard to see why Zendaya might want distance right now. Standing next to Sydney on a red carpet could easily be read as silent approval of controversies and views Zendaya has never aligned herself with. Even one shared photo could spark headlines she doesn't want. She's clearly not trying to have her name tied to any of this. What makes it more uncomfortable is the history. The two actresses grew up together on the Euphoria set and were once seen as genuinely close, which makes the shift feel noticeable. Insiders claim Zendaya has been deeply bothered by Sydney's reported political leanings and, more importantly, by how she handled the backlash. The refusal to clearly address the controversial ad seems to be a major sticking point. None of this has been officially confirmed, but the rumors refuse to die down. And knowing how carefully Zendaya protects her image, it wouldn't be shocking if she chose to step back quietly. With such a large ensemble cast, avoiding joint press moments wouldn't even be difficult. But fans think there's another layer adding tension to the mix. Online sleuths have resurfaced old social media activity where Sydney allegedly liked tweets praising Tom Holland's looks, while he and Zendaya were already together. That raised eyebrows back then, and now it's being dragged right back into the spotlight. People online are joking that whenever all three names come up in the same space, things instantly feel awkward. Whether exaggerated or not, the tension is hard to ignore. The optics aren't great, and Zendaya has every reason to avoid messy narratives as the show's next season gets closer. At this point, it honestly feels safer for both Zendaya and Sydney to stay completely separate. Any overlap right now would only fuel speculation and put Zendaya in a no-win situation, especially after all the work she's done to stay clear of controversy. What really sealed it for a lot of people is the latest dating rumor making the rounds. Sydney is now allegedly linked to Scooter Braun, and that connection immediately raised eyebrows all over the internet. Beyond his very public industry controversies, many people see him as representing power structures and values that clash hard with the audience Sydney originally built her career on. Whether that association is intentional or not, to many it feels like another loud signal about where she's choosing to stand now. Taken together, this no longer looks like carefully manufactured chaos. For a lot of viewers, it feels like she's showing exactly who she is, without filters or strategy, and that's why people are questioning whether there's any real path back to the career she once had. If there is a final lifeline, it's Euphoria Season 3. That might be the last moment where she's closely tied to a respected cast, strong writing, and the version of herself fans originally believed in. It's the last real chance to remind audiences why her acting mattered before all the noise took over. A comeback isn't impossible, but it would take real changes, real accountability, and an actual reset, not silence. She's clearly not as untouchable as she once believed, and this era has made that impossible to ignore. So now the question is on the table. Is there still hope for her career, or has the damage gone too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I really want to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and share for more deep dives like this, and I'll see you in the next one.